Нашу традицию, что наших гостей надо представлять по-русски. Но я справлюсь. Я имею честь представить профессора истории искусства Томаса Хоуи, который начинал как филолог-германист и затем учился в Гарварде как дизайнер, как историк искусства и защитил в Гарварде свою диссертацию о происхождении Даитского ордера. Деятельность профессора Хоуи простирается в области дизайна, истории искусств и современного восприятия в Америке античного искусства. Одной из самых крупных и ныне действующих его программ – это создание археологического парка в Стабиях. Это место на берегу, где довольно много римских вилл, прекрасно сохранившихся, примерно 20 лет там идут раскопки, в которых участвуют в том числе и люди, и студенты из разных стран, включая сотрудников, молодых сотрудников Эрмитажа. И там был с их участием открыт самый большой и прекрасно сохранившийся регулярный римский сад. Кроме того, профессор Хоуи создал самый большой подробный комментарий, после 17 века, комментарий к Вергилию, богато иллюстрированный, и к нашей теме имеет отношение его работы о развитии политического пространства в Римской Республике, то есть форум и более позднее время. Он вел также раскопки как археолог, не только как историк искусства, но и как археолог, в частности в Сардах и более в Римской Британии и более всего в Стабе последние 20 лет. И сегодняшний доклад будет посвящен, как вы видите, также в основном Стабию. И, в общем, состоять сейчас увидим довольно много интересного.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this invitation to come in Moscow. It's my very first time here, my fourth time to Russia. It's a very interesting kind of conference. I've attended more frequently. And in the last few years, I've been at conferences where unusual groups of nationalities are now sharing classical studies, far more than they did 10 or so years ago. So it was very exciting for me to be here with this group of scholars, to be here to present my work to you. So thank you so much for the invitation and all the work that you have done. Thanks. Two of the most difficult things to be reconstructed by archaeology are movement and, second, gardens. This, for instance, is the appearance of the great Piscina at Empress Nero's Empress Pompeia's villa, Pontus, without the porticos, without the plants, without the water. This is the appearance of the great peristyle of the so-called Villa San Marco at Stabia, with trees replanted in platina, plane trees, as they are known to be from the roots of the original roads. This, for instance, is the entrance courtyard of the Villa San Marco at Stabia, as it has been recently re-excavated and reconstructed. But in the middle was found a plane tree root, whose cast you can see there. And if you reconstruct that, it rather changes the appearance of the garden, thanks to the miracle of Photoshop. Stabia, the villa of the great peristyle, is so well preserved that it actually creates a micro-environment, a different environment and again without even the fountains functioning. So the site of Stabia, introduced it to you, a few miles from Pompeii, is nothing other than the largest concentration of well-preserved, large seaside Roman villas in the entire Mediterranean. All of the villas date from between 89 BC, when Lucius Cornelius Sulla, legate to Pompeii, Strabo, destroyed the town, and the eruption of the 24th of August or the 23rd of November, whichever date you prefer, AD 79. It was downwind of Vesuvius on the day of the eruption, and was buried in the same eruption. And as many of you know, Pliny the Elder died on the beach at one of these villas. Don't know which one. The Bourbon excavations of 1749 to 1782 excavated in tunnels and trenches, and were then backfilled, and the site was actually lost. People forgot where it was. Though highly accurate plans were drawn by the military engineer Carl Weber, which you see there, published in 1881. Pieces were extracted from the walls and taken to the museum in Naples and the villas that were empty. The site was forgotten until 1960, when a high school principal, Di Bartolsi, reopened excavations at his own expense with a janitor and an unemployed car mechanic. In the later 1950s, excavations passed to the superintendency of the Pompeii. The partly re-excavated site is visible today. Those features in red on this plan are open to the site today and have been re-excavated a second time. Those features in yellow are still buried and are to be re-excavated. Stabia is not a town site. It is opidum, not a municipium. It's the same, actually, as it says in Baia, where Cicero's villa is referred to as his communum. It's a series of large villas built directly next to one another on a sea cliff. In other words, an exclusive community for very wealthy people. Only 5, of the 5 very large, well-preserved known villas in the Bay of Naples area, 3 are at Stabia. The other, of course, are Pompeii, or Oplantis, and Oplantis and Villa de Papyri. The great archaeological opportunity of Stabia. Okay, well, these are the other villas. Sorry, my fly-ins. These are the villas. Going up now. So the great archaeological opportunity of Stabia is the only place in the entire Mediterranean where a well-preserved cluster of elite villa maritimi can be recovered in their entire context by archaeology. It is this which justifies major new excavation and conservation in order to create an ambitious archaeological plan on the site. For these reasons, it is excellently preserved, it is largely unencumbered by buildings, it is a coherent character representative of a pivotal place in history. It is possible to create a concentration of cultural activities on the site to support the site, such as a museum, music venues, and archaeology can be the key to the economic recovery of the depressed region of southern Italy. The site is 4 kilometers from Pompeii, lies directly against the local communal rail station. Therefore, an archaeological park on this site has the best opportunity to establish an economically sustainable archaeological site. The Stabia project is therefore much more than archaeology, but also extends to urban planning. The construction of a visitor center, which is half begun, new roofing, an exhibition of Roman frescoes, which was the first long-term loan from Italy to the United States for 4 years, and a further set of exhibitions which went to none other than the State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia, and then again to the Hong Kong Museum of Art. Okay. We have taken under our management a 190-room international study center with very good cook, incidentally, so do visit. research is an accommodation for 190 new prisons, which has accommodated hundreds of researchers and visitors from Russia, Ukraine, Brazil, most of Europe, Canada, the United States, and even Japan. So this is a convenient study center available to everyone, and it hosts numerous international conferences. So, this is a summary of the Foundation's mission. The main topic of this presentation is how recent research on the Stabia site, including excavation, has enhanced our knowledge of how elite owners and guests in the large villas moved through these spaces. We know a great deal how the senatorial elite moved through the public spaces in the city of Rome, much less about how they moved to and in their great villas, which concentrated in the Bay of Naples in the 1st century BC. In Rome, in the public, the senatorial elite moved through the city under the constant, intense observation of the alert voting public, the so-called conspectu populi. A house near the Forum was a political act, a display of clientela was a political asset, and is a critical political tool. When Tiberius Sempronius Gracchus, tribune for 133, left his house in the Vicus Tuscus, he supposedly was followed by as many as 3,000 lions. The house near Forum was one of the most useful political tools, a place for the morning greeting of friends, the salutario, and business partners, and display of clients. In the later Republic, later Republic, the known senatorial domos, if you try to plot them, whose locations are approximately known, about 150 our locations are approximately known, cluster near the Forum and the Palatine, the Oppium and the Lower Capitoline. If I were to plot those that are known from the 2nd century or so AD, as the political senatorial activity declines, they're much more widely scattered throughout the entire city and not concentrated close together. In the last century of the Republic, the senatorial villas tended to cluster in 3 sets of locations. Novarti, right around Rome, a few hours drive away at Tibur, Tusculum, and Laurentum, and 1 to 2 days ride or boat ride away, mainly with concentration on the north side of the Bay of Naples, preferred travel by boat during the so-called Senate holidays, or supposedly March and April-ish. But see Horace in his travels with Maecenas, Centaurs 1.5, and Statius Silvae 3.2. They seem to cluster in 2 forms. One, scattered high on the hills, with large properties at Tusculum and Tibur, or built directly side by side at the Villa Maritimi. It's this latter concentration that Stabia gives the crucial archaeological evidence. The villas of the Bay of Naples were centers of great political power. Some of the most significant political events of the last 2 generations of the Republic occurred in the villas of the Bay of Naples. During the so-called senatorial holiday, the capital virtually moved from Rome to these villas. And for 17, it did, when Tiberius moved to Capri. Stabia was not the main center of these villas, which was on the north side of the Bay of Naples. Stabia was on the south side, around Baia and Misenum. But the prime archaeological significance of Stabia is that it may be the best model for the urbanistic arrangement of these villas, Villae Maritimi, clustered side by side on prime sea view real estate. Of the 5 very large relic villas, I just mentioned this, no, I skip over that. We know quite a lot about the distribution of space and well-preserved. So let's give you over this stuff. My lines here. We know quite a bit about the distribution of space and the well-preserved large townhouses of Pompeii and Herculaneum. The elite members of the household and their guests move from space to space through large spaces. Corridors are almost exclusively preserved of the servile staff. In the slide, the servile areas are pink, and the blue rooms are the main formal triclinium. We know a great deal about how social hierarchy was enforced by seating around triclinium. And the best view was usually very carefully that was orchestrated toward the garden. Like that, skip over these. And we know the dinner party was acknowledged to be a place in the power broking. But the famous saying, Lucius Mulus Paulus, who was the victor at 168 at Pydna, was commonly repeated, the man who knows how to conquer in battle should also know how to give a banquet or organize the games. So the relative importance of the domus, or the villa, is also clearly integrated with two other hierarchies. A hierarchy of color, such as cinnabar, Egyptian blue, counterguarded, down the ochres and black and white, and a hierarchy of subject matter. History and mythology, architectural frames, vignettes, linear patterns, and eventually the zebra stripes, the servile areas. The art which also indicated hierarchy of motions in place. For instance, triclinium featured very large history scenes or mythological scenes, possible subject of exegesis, and features interplay of real and fictive views into the gardens. So, and one other rule which applies to almost all of our architecture with people houses of power, the deeper you get into the house, the closer you get to the seat of power. So, you're very well informed, eh? Maybe that's what it is. You know that. Okay. So, now an actual archaeological work on the site of Stabia since 2002. Geophysical survey in 2002 located the corner of this peristyle garden, which is right out here. So formerly thought to be only 35 meters away here. Now proves that this peristyle goes to about 110 meters. This was the peristyle where ceiling frescoes were found, and spirally fluted columns, and which collapsed in an earthquake of 1980. Those that were excavated by that time. But that means there are some 60 meters of ceiling frescoes still intact, waiting to be excavated and conserved. But this is the corner column as it was found, some 108 meters away. That is the only skeleton, incidentally, found at Stabia, or almost the only one. The major villas have courtyards the size of the size that Vitruvius recommends for a public palestra. That is a circumference of about 2 stadia, or about 2 times 600 meters or 2 times 180 meters. So it's 1, 2, 3. All this reinforces an argument made by Andrew Walls-Hadley that the great villas of the Roman Republic, imitate public Hellenistic architecture, and not palatial Hellenistic architecture. Major excavations started at Stabia in 2007 with the first entrance peristyle here, street, nascent adjacent to the Villa San Marco here. This is the way it looked in the first sketch in 1999 and in 2007 and in 2009 when the street excavation has recovered the original ancient street and the original ancient entrance with temporary roofing. So this is the excavation sequence in the courtyard, 2008, June 2008, and the final reconstruction in October 2008 with the plane tree cabin you just see. Another excavation in 2009 cleared the front part of the Villa like Domus, right across the street from here. That's this building, shown in the plan of 1881, 1782. Okay. Just inside the village of Stabia, the topography of Stabia is here, where the street descends to the presumed port, the Villa San Marco Domus. The Domus preserves a panoramic courtyard, so-called day on a day room, with views to the front, back, left, and right, and may represent an adjoining property with the Villa San Marco. The door frames are identical. There's a bridge over the out-of-use city gate, and one passes from one to other open spaces in the manner of elite persons moving to the main part of the house. This means that the situation at Stabia is identical to that of Pompeii and Herculaneum, where the out-of-use city walls go out of use, and prime real estate frontal property is redeveloped into luxurious townhouses with narrow sea frontages and panoramic symmetrical domes or triclinia. There's a literary tradition and a precedent for this, namely that in 8020, Gnaeus Cornelius Piso, consul from year 87, committed suicide when it became obvious that he had condemned, but his heirs are punished by, among other things, breaking up the two properties on either side of the Porta Fontinalis in Rome, which were conjoined by a bridge. The conjoined properties existing at Stabia would have been a remarkably salient visual feature, and the ramp going into the sea, passing underneath it, would have passed underneath them to the seashore. So, in the Villa Ariana, the thermal bath zone, that thing, was excavated by the State Hermitage team and is still under excavation since 2010, and by the Ross Foundation. The excavation came across 18th century excavation trenches, a small courtyard garden, and a long frescoed corridor, which is unusual in that it shows that this is one example where the elite of the villa did move from one area to another through, let's see, they did move from one area by means of a corridor. So the red arrows in the plan indicate elite movement patterns, blue servile. At the left, the house of Menander, again, where all the corridors are in the servile area. So the development of the villa shows major change in movement and villa and viewing. The earliest phase of the Villa Ariana is dated by these frescoes, and by the bath complex here, which shows that this was originally a garden. The villa seems to have had a conventional Vitruvian peristyle and atrium arrangement, pretty much like the villa of the Mysteries at Pompeii, and, God bless the mark, a German Durchblick, axial see-through view. A major change in the orientation of the villas comes into view in the Augustan period, visible the Villa San Marco. The villas are now laid out parallel to the sea cliff and exploit the view. Major entertainment areas develop differential cross-axial views, like these. This is what John Clark has referred to as the view mania of early imperial villas. Movement now is through zigzag patterns through the villa rather than by means of through the Durchblick. In the Villa Ariana, the original peristyle atrium Durchblick has several dining rooms and apartments added to it. In the 1st century AD. Numerous rooms now have a ramp, multiple views, with front, back, and sometimes side. In 2007, major excavation was opened over an enormous area of garden of the Villa Ariana peristyle, opening almost half the width of the garden next to the cliff edge, which is this area here. And that's the area opened all at once. This is the way it looked in 2007. Okay. This is the way it looked in the course of excavation in 2007. Workmen planting beds. And this is the way it appeared in 2008. We're on 2008, when Professor Catholic Gleason it's enormous. It's an amazing place. It's an amazing place. Just an extraordinary extent opening up all at once. So we immediately scanned the surface with LiDAR, which is a good thing because now that surface is eroded. So we have preserved it digitally. And an aerial view in 2007 reveals the basic pattern of the garden. Can you see? So 2 wide beds, 3 narrow beds. The white dots are lapilli, volcanic cinder in the root cavity holes. So that means the pattern of the gardens is 2 wide beds, 3 narrow ones with trees, 2 wide beds, which are fortunately still buried. Beds for bushes were mounded, built up, and phytoliths demonstrated that the footpaths were actually ambulationes, meant to be walked in, and that they had grass. Romans had lawns. So phytoliths, by many faith, is small deposits of lime brought into plants or bugs on plants, which let you know the species. The species of phytoliths were very low climbing animals, therefore they had grass. The garden was leveled with a gradient of 1/2 of 1%, and was designed to collect and absorb rainwater and prevent runoff. It was very sophisticated. In January 2009, a collapse of the cliff edge revealed remains of a semicircular tank, a scheme possibly, placed on axis with a break in the planting. So the eventual lining of the planting bed was oriented on that, which means that the garden was being laid out with the same sort of differential cross-axial view as the architecture. We have here the arrival of the landscape architect in Roman art, Principal Tomiaris. There's a major, the root cavities were perfectly preserved. But there's a major disadvantage of the root cavities. For one thing, you use up a lot of vacuum cleaners, measured by hand, cast. But there's a disadvantage, as you can see, cast here, and filled with plaster. But there's a major disadvantage, because once you cast a plant root, you can't see it anymore. So, Professor Catherine Gleason and her team developed a new method of casting plant roots with silicon of a certain type called, get this, dragon skin, which is used for Hollywood masks. It has its advantage, it's messy, but it can set in about an hour. And then you okay, all right. This is serious archaeology, really. Is that the word for hair roots in Russian? For hair roots, very small roots. These.
Как называются эти корни? Я не знаю.
The tiny little, they're called hair roots. The fine little.
Что-то вроде волосяного корня. I don't know actually.
Okay, anyway, that's what's preserved. Pompeian archaeology is just incredible. I'll never get used to it. So, Gleason's analysis of the two broad reds, and of which is compared with the frescoes from the Golden Bracelet and famous garden fresco of the Villa of Livia, later demonstrated that these supposedly wild gardens in fact often were very structured. So there's the House of Golden Bracelet. But she analyzed it as being miniaturized plants. So judging if that's more or less the height of a person or less, that's really how high a person is. So the plants are about eye height. And they're laid out in a planar composition. So playing here, playing back here, and playing very back. So again, we have a topiaris at work. And when you look at the plan, that's not so evident, but you see it lined up, now you can see it. The wild bushes are ordered, usually the largest toward the middle. Here, this is, the significance of this is the first evidence that archaeology has ever recovered that the type of garden depicted in the villa of Livia Pinafore actually existed. I can go home now. More things come. The closest parallels to all this are public architecture. The Temple of Peace, the Temple of Bacchus in Rome, strolling gardens, and this interesting, a later garden, like the Temple Garden, Peace Garden, the Temple of Gilgamesh in Palatine, where the ambulationes are planted but with different types of species of trees, just as it started. Yeah. Architectural design and garden design simultaneously we're developing this differential cross-axial panoramic composition. So what this means is that what we have at Stabia, as I've said, in the 1st century BC, the early 1st century AD, is the rival Roman architecture of the landscape architect. The term topiaris appears in the literature about this time, I think about 30 BC or so. Professor Gleason has developed theories about how these gardens were actually used. First, we thought the original gardens may have looked like this. Ariana herself, the Flora herself, walking the garden. And her later reconstruction miniaturizes it, allowing people to some extent see over the gardens to the people in the next ambulatio. So here comes the Arapacus to visit. Right. So, next is less clear how the senatorial and municipal elite used the villas of the Bay of Naples than it is and how they used their domes in Rome. How they got them, but it's likely that here they operated much less under-conspected than in front of each other. They operated probably more for each other competitively. Cicero calls his Pudilam a pusilla Roma, and complains about having to wear a toga there, but most enjoys the custom of peregrinatio, visiting other people's villas. So at certain times, these villas must have been hosts to political gatherings of very high status people, but not the large numbers of solitari. So if we can assume these gardens were not only for solitary philosophical pleasure, but occasionally hosted larger gatherings, the senatorials, their friends, and local magnus and municipales, the arrangement of these walking gardens allowed for numerous different types of interactions. Now, if we look at this reconstruction, this is where the people would move through them. For instance, how one walks depends a great deal on how one's dressed. A young man, a matron, a coquettish civilian, and young men trying to flirt with a coquettish civilian. His mother's too soon. It also allows different type of interaction, such as two people passing in different lanes, not speaking to each other, but seeing each other. So, two people passing in the same lane, and now they all have to speak to each other. Two people going down separate aisles. They can see each other, you think. Are they going to meet or are they going to avoid each other? They meet. Okay, and there are two rooms right opposite each of the ambulationes, which are great places to spy on gardeners. Listen to this one. These people are moving very fast. There we go. So when they turn here, you can picture the matrons sitting in those three beautiful rooms, spying on whatever else is going on in the garden. So, now this was not a garden just for viewing plants or views or looking at the cross-sectional views of nature. This was a garden for viewing each other. This is a place for physical social activity shaped by this garden in this way. Which is really, again, it is not a philosophical, or not just simply a philosophical place where we pet philosophers. It is arguably a place to interact. There's a Maccabee and I both independently calculated that these large villas could entertain a good 150 people for dinner at a time. So these were power places for power growth. And the gardens served that, and the way people maneuvered and moved through these places with that. With, as Lawrence says, always the servile staff in the shadows, controlling the passage in different spaces. The garden garden marked the arrival of the landscape architect, a new type of integration of nature into formal architecture, luxury architecture. The publication of this garden is now going to be out within finally about a week or so, starting with the 2007 excavation. And it took an awful lot of collaborators from an awful lot of different places, including Russia, to perform some of the major excavations on the thermal area of the zone. Well, spasibo. Thank you very much.
About the ways for national discussion.
Thank you very much for your very impressive and helpful intro. I enjoyed it. I want to ask if this kind of planning gardens was is to be supposed to be an innovation by Romans, or do we know about some early, possibly Hellenistic roots of these kind of things?
It's a very good question. Well, are they Hellenistic? I don't know particularly. I can't really quite think of Hellenistic gardens that are laid out this way, quite simply. So, but I will obviously study that. Persian gardens you can walk in. So, but the Hellenistic world is one at this point. Good question.
Any more questions?
I have a question just about something you mentioned in passing. If I heard you right, you said these types of buildings are borrowing from public but not palatial Hellenistic architecture.
Yes.
What's the significance of that choice?
The significance is what I started off with. The domus is practically, the domus of a senatorial or municipal elite is practically a public space, even before it's Hellenized, isn't it? Okay. So when therefore begin to monumentalize it with Hellenistic art, they begin looking for the large sanctuaries and the large palæstra in the museum, but less so than the palaces, which are basically, as far as we know, courtyard buildings, like the palaces of Pergamon and probably Alexandria. So, for instance, even in the houses of Pompeii, you often have a courtyard, and there'll be a little pediment right in front of the dining room, triclinium. And sculptured garden is arguably trying to look more like a sanctuary than like a palace, because the people who own them live this very public life. Whether they live that public life in their villas or not is another question I'm not so sure about. There are a couple of references. For instance, Cicero mentioned that his villa at Rome was like a Pusilla Roma, and he ever wears toga sometimes. Also, and I think it was January 48, Cicero met Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar dropped in on him on his villa at Formia, bringing 3,000 of his best friends. And so he suddenly had entertainment. And there's a remark, I think, by Pliny the Younger, who says something like, "I can tell just how important you think I am by which dining room you put me into." This, I think, implies that they weren't only just strolling with philosophers. They were entertaining a large number of at least the elite. Don't have much more to go on yet.
Вопрос касался того замечания, которое было в походе сделано относительно того, что в архитектуре вилл римляне скорее ориентировались на публичные здания, официальные здания эллинистической эпохи, а не на дворцы. В чем смысл такого выбора? По мнению профессора Хоуи, дело в том, что всегда дом, по крайней мере, сенатора был абсолютно публичным пространством, в котором приходило огромное количество людей. Поэтому, когда, соответственно, римская архитектура эллинизировалась, в качестве образца они выбирали скорее официальные здания и, прежде всего, храмы, а не дворцы. И, соответственно, различные элементы архитектуры вилл и садов, скорее культурной группы и так далее, скорее намекают на то, что образцом для этого служили храмы. В действительности, насколько виллы служили таким же публичным пространством, как дома сенаторов в Риме, это дискуссионный вопрос, однако по некоторым сведениям, которые мы можем почерпнуть из Цицерона, например, в действительности оказывается, что там, при встрече Цицерона и Цезаря чуть ли не 3000 человек должно было быть занято и развлечено. И характерное замечание Плиния относительно того, что важность человека определяется, в какую из столовых его посадят. Соответственно, в действительности это было все равно публичным политическим пространством.